Hello and welcome. You're watching NewsX with me, Devika Devan. With Trump's whopping 50% tariff imposition, India's diplomatic efforts have not concluded with Prime Minister Narendra Modi's strategic meeting with Xi Jinping and Putin at the SCO Summit. Instead, they've marked a significant beginning. 24 hours later, Singaporean Prime Minister Lawrence Wong and the German Foreign Minister Johann Wadephul have arrived in India with the aim to boost strategic partnership, boost bilateral trade and enhance defence cooperation. While Prime Minister Narendra Modi is expected to meet his Singaporean counterpart tomorrow, the German Foreign Minister held delegation-level talks with External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar. We've put together some of the key excerpts of this joint press conference. Listen in.
We greatly value the understanding that Germany has shown with regard to India's fight against terrorism. Minister Wadephul has himself been explicit about our right to defend our people against terrorist attacks. Our parliamentary delegation that visited Germany in June after Operation Sindhu was also warmly received.
India and Germany are already playing in the Premier League. Germany, with little under 31 billion euros of trade, has India as its most important trading partner. As I said to my colleague, we aim to double that. And I'm pleased to see that India takes a similarly positive and optimistic view of the chances for that. India and Germany are united by the objective to preserve the rules-based international order. And of course that includes the freedom of maritime trade routes in the Indo-Pacific. China's increasingly aggressive behavior in the Indo-Pacific is cause for concern for both our countries. More generally, we aim to further expand our cooperation in the areas of defense, security and armaments, and we talked about this today. Be it in the area of strengthening cooperation in the field of aerospace and space, be it in the area of AI, where we both believe the need to set up norms, rules and values that we also adhere to. With the EU AI Act, the EU has presented an important first building block in that regard.
All right, so India's message has been clear so far that we're a nation that values its self-respect and we want to leverage diplomacy to forge new trade pathways, but most importantly, India is a country that is not willing to keep up with tantrums or any sort of bullying. However, with some of the meetings that have taken place in the past week itself, it's pretty clear that the world is not willing to accept bullying or tantrums either. There's a reason why India first visited Japan, then the SCO Summit happened, and then the German Foreign Minister and Singapore's Prime Minister are in India today. What does this truly mean for the larger global order? We take this conversation forward. We have with us Professor Clemens Fischer from University of Cologne, Germany. Professor Fischer, thank you so much for speaking to NewsX. I have to, of course, begin by asking you, what really was Germany's expectation from this visit to India, and have those expectations been met?
Hello, thank you very much for inviting me to your meeting here online. Well, firstly, the point is a very simple one. Mr. Wadephul's visit to India couldn't have been at the best or at the worst time we could see. At the best time because there's an urgent need for the Europeans, and in particular for Germany, to have closer bonds with India. And the worst case is that at the same time your Prime Minister is visiting China and is meeting there Mr. Putin, Mr. Xi and Mr. Kim. And therefore it is not very clear for the Europeans on which side India might take place in the forthcoming months. We will do everything to hold on this camp, India in our camp particularly, because we do need India as a strategic partner in the Indo-Pacific. So Mr. Wadephul's visit is very much important for the German foreign policy, for the German trade policy, but inter alia, not only for Germany, but also for the whole European Union.
Mr. Fischer, when you say that India is an important strategic partner for the European Union as far as the Indo-Pacific is concerned, could you shed further light on the same for our viewers? Why exactly is that view held, and what is the larger expectation as far as trade relations with India are concerned?
But we do currently we do see that the worldwide trade is more or less in turmoil. On the one hand, Mr. Trump is putting one barrier after the other on certain countries. It's not only India who will punish currently. It is even, as you will certainly have seen, even Switzerland with 39% on tariffs. So India is more or less the scapegoat for the politics which didn't work out, because Mr. Trump didn't want to punish India in the first place, but is certainly Russia, because not of ending the war in Ukraine. So India is of course bound by your own trade relations to find a way out of that. And Mr. Wadephul repeatedly said yesterday, and when he was on visit your foreign minister, that Germany and the European Union is more than willing to open up our markets. In particular, when you see Germany, more than 1,800 German companies and all high-end companies have already their compounds in India. There are very close relations between India and European universities. And this is what we should explore. The Europeans have no right, and they shouldn't do so, to tell India what to do and which path to go. But we do not want to lose the biggest democracy on earth, because whatever you might see in the Ukraine conflict, which side India might take, but this is not the reason to break up with India, because we still want to have very close relations.
Okay, that's an interesting point that you raised there, Professor Fischer. So I want to understand from your perspective further. Is there then largely a belief within Europe that it's wrong to isolate India for its purchase of discounted oil from Russia and blame the Russia-Ukraine war on India squarely?
As a lot of experts repeatedly have said, of course, India, with its position in more or less the monolith between Africa and Asia. This is the subcontinent India, which is the dominating part in the Indo-Pacific region, of course, together with China. And India must find a way, in particular, to fuel its industry. And obviously, India has decided to take raw oil and gas from the Russians. This is something the Americans simply don't want to see, because they have sanctioned Russia on that. And there are two big countries, which on the one hand is China, the other is India, who still buy gas and oil from Russia, which is understandable, by the way, because you do need to fuel your industry. And therefore, as long as the Europeans and the Americans don't make a better offer, we have to accept that India is at least taking this part of the agreement with Russia. On the other hand, India, we do at least hope so, is still open for a dialogue. And your Prime Minister yesterday, in his meeting with Mr. Putin, stated not more than once, I think 2 or 3 times, that the war in Ukraine must have an end. At the end of the day, some industry parts might be the big winners of the war, always be. But on the other is, trade is interrupted worldwide. Globally, we do see that supply chains are not working as they should. And India, together with Germany, has a huge trade volume. Last year, as I've just looked at, $33 billion trade volume between Germany and India alone. And then see what the trade volume with the Europeans is. So what we really expect from India is that India doesn't break up with the Europeans, because Europeans are not the enemy in that very case. We are part of course, a hemisphere which is partly dominated by the US, in particular militarily, but our trade and foreign policy is certainly a European one. And
yes,
Mr. Wadephul is only a symbol for that.
All right, Professor Fischer, thank you so much for joining us with that perspective. That leaves us with a lot to discuss with some of our Indian guests as well. On that note, let me bring in Ambassador Veena Sikri into the conversation. We also have with us Mr. Surinder Singh Lali, Mithali Nikore, Dr. Sharad Kohli and Professor Madhav Nalapat as well. Ambassador Sikri, I want to begin by asking you, ma'am, your biggest takeaway as far as the German foreign minister's visit to India is concerned.
I'd like to emphasize that the German foreign minister in India has repeatedly focused on the need for multipolarity. He is talking about multi-alignment, and in that way, he is endorsing India's foreign policy of strategic autonomy, which I think has been very successful and very significant at this particular time. Regarding the purchase of oil from Russia, I think 2 points need to be emphasized and pointed out. First of all, it was the American government itself which encouraged India to purchase oil from Russia in order to keep world prices of oil within check. And of course, these what India is buying from Russia is within a certain pre-agreed capped amount. That's the first point. And secondly, of course, I think Europe, including Germany, are buying equal amounts of oil from Russia. And what India is refining is also going to Europe. In fact, Ukraine is now purchasing the largest amount of diesel from India. And we know that China is also purchasing very, very large amounts of oil and petroleum products from Russia, and as is Turkey, much, much more than what India is doing. So we don't quite understand this focus on India's purchases of Russian oil and why this has become a focus for tariffs and penalty tariffs and so on. But I do agree fully that India and Germany at this point, it's a very important time for us to strengthen our bilateral trade and economic ties. And I think that's exactly what is going to be the outcome of Foreign Minister Wadephul's visit. I think that the reorganization, the strengthening, the trade factor, the investment factor, there's so many German companies in India who are doing very well and enjoy their interaction and continuing drive to build the relationship with India, both on investments and trade. So I do think that the visit of Foreign Minister Wadephul is very timely and very successful. He's found, their joint press conference between External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar and Foreign Minister Wadephul was very direct and very successful. And I think India and Germany are willing to work together, not only in the bilateral relationship, but also in the regional context, with the EU as such. And I think Germany can be a very important spokesperson for India within the EU in the sense that they understand fully, based on the discussions that Foreign Minister Wadephul has had, they seem to understand fully India's point of view on this matter. So I do think it's a good augury for the future of India-German and India-EU relations.
All right. Professor Madhav Nalapat, your thoughts on the same as well, sir. As far as our leveraging our relationship with Germany and Singapore is concerned, how do we do so to advance some of our own economic as well as technological goals right now? Because we are living in quite, chaotic times.
Look, Devika, I want to point out that Prime Minister Modi did not meet Chairman Kim of North Korea. I'd like to say that Prime Minister Modi has not participated in today's huge parade, crossing Tiananmen Square, which was held by the Chinese Communist Party state. So I want to point out that, and Ambassador Sikri already pointed out, India has become the largest supplier of diesel to Ukraine. So the reality of the situation is that India is definitely not, throwing its lot with any of these blocs. I mean, definitely not. And that is why the Prime Minister did not participate in this huge parade that was there of Chinese military power. I think the parade would have been quite an effective wake-up call, even to President Trump, because for the first time I find on Truth Social, he's beginning to talk about plots by Kim Jong-un, Vladimir Putin, and Xi Jinping against the United States. He did not mention India in that particular post. So I want to point out that it's only logical that the Indo-Pacific be free, open, and inclusive, in the Prime Minister's words, at the Shangri-La dialogue in Singapore some time ago. And in that context, Singaporeans coming here, the Prime Minister coming here, well, one is that, of course, Singapore for a long time has been close to India. The second thing is that the Singaporeans have for a long acted as a bridge between China and the West. And now that role is coming under pressure because the two sides are drifting further and further apart. And as for our German friend talking about India and Russia, well, the fact of the matter is, I think Germany, the rate of growth of Germany is abysmal now, mainly because it's shut itself off from Russian oil supplies. At the same time, not only Europe but the United States buys huge amounts of radioactive material from Russia. So radioactive material is used for energy, is not used for any other purpose. So quite frankly, I think there needs to be a lesson in realism, and I'm hoping that this particular parade, which makes very, very clear that Xi Jinping is intending to convey to the world that there's a new sheriff in town, a new boss in town, and we are ready to step into that role. It's not, if you check back to say 2015 or so, it was quite deferential and apologist. Today, he's not deferential, he's not apologist. He's saying very frankly, China is not a rising power, it's not an aspiring power, it's a risen power. And we are ready to take on the responsibility of being the central pole of global geopolitics. So if that's not a wake-up call, Devika, I really don't know what is. But I would again say that Europe and India, North America and India are natural partners. ASEAN and India, GCC and India are natural partners. And Prime Minister Modi has cultivated the best of relations with ASEAN, with the GCC countries, and frankly, in North America with Prime Minister Carney. But something has happened where the US is concerned, but it's more related to the President of the United States than any United States policy. Marco Rubio gave a very important and flattering tweet about India, and he's Secretary of State in the Trump administration. So I think that is the more correct message, and I don't think that the strong relationship between India and the United States is going to go haywire anytime soon. So the reality also is, economically, India is focusing on double-digit growth, and for double-digit growth, it needs a policy of going to different markets and getting different sources of material at the best possible price, Devika.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much for that. Dr. Sharad Kohli, bringing you into the conversation from your perspective as well, how do we now make the most of the situation that we're in? Because it's pretty clear from the world leaders also wanting to come in, not just into India, but everyone trying to move now in different places and figure out alternate markets and alternate opportunities as well. How do we make the most of it?
Well, good evening, Devika, to you, my fellow panelists and NewsX viewers. I think the world will spin on its axis, and not because of United States approval. We don't need a permission slip. For that matter, most of the countries don't need a permission slip from America to do business with each other, to grow together. So I think that's one message. I would, with your permission, like to comment on two aspects of what Mr. Fisher, I think his name was, which he said. He used the word punish, that India has been punished. I strongly object to that word. Well, we are not dealing with a principal or a class teacher or a mentor or a guru or somebody who's sitting on our head who's got a right to punish us. That's their policy, the way they look at it. I don't really categorize this in punishment. The second aspect, with your permission, I would like to comment on is he spoke of they are not sure of which side India is taking, because Indian Prime Minister visited Tianjin, and they were seen with President Putin. I think there's no question of sides here. I don't know. This is an era of multipolarity. I really don't think there is any need to pick up sides. India has been non-aligned. It is just that America has thrown these tantrums across that we have to also send a message that we will carry on doing business with others. We are not going to be impacted by your dictates or whatever you want to do. So I think the world is going to go on. As far as Singapore and Germany is concerned, coincidentally, with both the countries, with Singapore as a city-state, we do business about $34 billion of bilateral trade. Tremendous potential, I would say. The second largest partner for FDI, because a lot of FDI comes via Singapore. It may not be originating from Singapore, but then because of some tax, haven sort of facilities being extended by Singapore. Second largest FDI country of origin for that matter. And then, of course, Germany, tremendous potential. With EU, we are already in dialogue for a free trade agreement. We are in bilateral talks with a lot of countries. Huge potential here. We are not going to be impacted by Mr. Donald Trump's diktats or whatever he may like to say through his guy called Peter Navarro. So we are not going to be impacted at all by any of the diktats, the new statements which keep coming. He may be using somebody. The world is going to go on. The trade is going to go on. India is going to continue to grow, and so would the world, Devika.
Okay, Mitali, your thoughts on the same?
Devika, I think I completely echo the sentiments of the fellow panelists, but I think what is very critical is to understand what distinguishes the timing of this visit and what distinguishes some of the statements that, our German friend also made earlier in the show. See, Germany has always been a long-term partner of India, particularly when also I look at international development assistance. GIZ, KfW, these have been two entities that have always been very eager to look at some of the areas that other development partners have not wanted to look at. For example, even for my own work, I do a lot of work with entities like GIZ simply because they are looking at green technologies, they are looking at gender inclusion, they are looking at sustainability in a way that I have found that maybe some of the other bilateral partners are not. And they are very willing to collaborate with private sector. They're very willing to work with a number of different entities. So I think somewhere it is very much in India's interest to continue working on these bilateral relationships. India is already in the midst of negotiating the EU FTA. We have had very positive discussions on the EU FTA and we're moving forward with that. So in this context, it becomes very, very critical that, countries like Germany, countries like Italy, Netherlands, while they may be maintaining their relationship with the US, they are also happy to maintain their relationship with India and China. And those are very critical conversations in a multipolar world. Also, German technology, while it's not the same as what it used to be, several years ago, we all used to swear by German technology. That's definitely not kept up in today's world. It's still something that, especially in the area of green energy and in the area of semiconductor technology, is still ahead of many other countries. We can still leverage that. So I think there are definitely, and in today's world, everyone knows that you must not put your eggs in one basket. So whether it's dealing with Germany, whether it's dealing with other European countries, maintaining our bilateral relations with each of these European countries is critical in a multipolar world.
Right, absolutely. I think I have just a minute left. Mr. Lali, your thoughts quickly, sir.
Here to listen to what I'm going to be sharing next. Tesla delivered 600 vehicles in India since July 2025. Mahindra BE Batman Edition SUV sold 999 units. In any guesses, Devika, how much time? 135 seconds. So I wish the best automaker in the world was here to witness the fact I've shared. Devika, much has been said and with not much of time, all I could say is that Americans' financial supremacy is still there, but American hegemony is up for revision. And Donald Trump has done this great favor to the world in terms of exposing how unreliable the United States of America can be, so that now each one of us are not, where we want to think beyond America. But Devika, in the same breath, because I only probably have 30 seconds left, I'm still not wanting to write our relationship with America off. Donald Trump's will come and go. There is more to America. And one of the reasons why I feel, this is purely my opinion, that our prime minister didn't attend the victory lap parade in the military parade in China was because we are in not any one of the camps. We believe in our strategic autonomy. Whoever is useful to us, we'll do business with them because our interest is neither east or west. It's only the 1.4 billion people of India.
Right, absolutely. On that note, unfortunately, we just didn't have the time today, but I thank still all of our guests for joining us. With that, a short break.